The Witcher series, while most people probably know it as the popular video game series, actually started as fantasy short stories and then was turned into some wonderful books. So this video, I want to give you an intro to the Witcher universe so we can cover the books at a later date. You can't stop a soldier from being frightened, but you can give him motivation to help him overcome that fear. I have no such motivation. I can't have. I'm a Witcher, an artificially created mutant. I kill monsters for money. I defend children when their parents pay me to. If Nilfgaardian parents pay me, I'll defend Nilfgaardian children. And even if the world lies in ruin, which does not seem likely to me, I'll carry on killing monsters in the ruins of this world until some monster kills me. That is my fate, my reason, my life, and my attitude to the world, and it is not what I choose. It was chosen for me. So the Witcher series is about a witcher called Geralt of Rivia, and his destiny, which is tied to a sorceress and a princess who has a deep secret, I would say dark, but it could go either way. The Witcher universe was created by Andrzej Sapkowski, who you can probably guess is Polish, in the mid-1980s, or at least published for the first time in the mid-1980s. While he would write quite a few stories about Geralt, The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny were published in the early 90s and contain short stories. The main Witcher saga consists of 5 books: Blood of Elves, Time of Contempt, Baptism of Fire, The Tower of Swallow, and The Lady of the Lake, all published in the 90s. There is also the standalone novel Season of Storms. Andrzej's fantasy series, besides being adapted into a highly successful video game series, has also been adapted into television series, comic books, movies, and more. More importantly, Netflix is releasing their Witcher series starring Henry Cavill this year. There are of course novels that deal with this world without centering on Geralt. So as of right now, I don't know if I'm going to start with the Witcher saga or the Blood Elf saga, which starts with the Blood of Elves, or if I'm going to start with The Last Wish, which is a prelude to that saga. The Last Wish and Blood of Elves are both really good books, so I don't know yet. If you like A Song of Ice and Fire, you'll be happy to know that the Witcher series does deal with a lot of gray, and if you are totally into that, incest between siblings, there is that too. So, if that's your kink, there you go. It also has a lot of crude and ironic humor, which I absolutely love, but I know that's not for everyone. It also has more darker takes on some fairy tales than you might be used to, although to be honest, most of the old fairy tales are actually very terrifying, and Disney made them much happier. So the Witcher series mainly takes place on a planet called the Globe, the Earth, or the World by its occupants, and it revolves around a star, which they call the Sun, and it has a moon that orbits around it. Now this isn't actually our Earth that we're on, even though the author did play with the idea of making the Witcher series take place on our prehistoric Earth. No, apparently there is a universe where our Earth exists, and surprise, surprise, humans just fucked it up, and now you can't occupy the Earth, so not surprising. If it's one thing humans are really good at, it's fucking things up. It's our specialty. So the Witcher series, even though their planet is sometimes called the Earth, it isn't our Earth. It takes place in a different universe or reality. One main difference between their world and ours is their month actually begins on the full moon, and the full moon can last several days. On this planet is the continent, where most of the action in the series takes place. The continent is located in the northern hemisphere, where about 90% of the land on this planet is located. The southern hemisphere is mostly ocean, but the inhabitants down there aren't important for this video. The continent contains the Northern Kingdoms and the Nilfgaardian Empire. The Northern Kingdoms consist of a group of human states. Within these states, dwarves, elves, halflings, and gnomes live, However, these species also have their own homes in cities outside of the humans. Despite dwarves, elves, and gnomes being part of the old race and being the first on this planet, humans came much later. Humans, when they got to the planet, also, this is not going to be surprising to you, started just conquering and then made those old races second-class citizens that have to pay taxes to humans for being non-humans. It's pretty shitty. In fact, it's so shitty because humans, when they came in and started conquering on the continent, they started building their own cities on the ruins and rubble of the old race's cities. So there are elven towns that were decimated and the humans just built their shit on top of theirs. So you can imagine there's a little bit of tension between the old races and humans. However, you will find with this series, just like with us, there are varying levels of bias and prejudice. So there are certain elves that are just like, whatever, I'm gonna try to integrate in human society. And then there are other elves, for example, that are, we would rather die than ever have any business with you. Go fuck yourself. The Nilfgaardian Empire is located on the southern part of the continent, and they are incredibly powerful and an absolute monarchy. In fact, they are the most important empire in the history of the known world. They have a strong economy and army, and they are on the move to conquer more and more. Led by an emperor or empress, their provinces are ruled by princes, dukes, counts, and others. However, despite the title of someone controlling a province, they must answer and obey the emperor in everything. But I want to talk about the multiverse real quick because there is one in the Witcher series which just makes it so much more awesome. And in fact, in other stories, you get to visit somewhere besides the main planet that the series takes place on. In the Witcher series, the multiverse contains other realities and an infinite number of parallel realities, universes, and dimensions. At one time, traveling the multiverse was easy, but after the conjunction of the spears, which happened 1500 years before the novels, it became much harder, with some places ceasing to exist. Unicorns, just like our beautiful unicorn boy Craig, he's so can actually travel easily between universes, or at least what we perceive to be unicorns. I hope that sounds ominous, because it should. The conjunction of the spears is very important to this series. Because it happened, unnatural or magical creatures got stuck in that dimension and on that planet, which is where Witchers come in. And I'm not going to go too crazy in detail about that in this video because I want it to be an introduction, and I feel like that's a little bit too crazy. Just know the conjunction of the spears happened about 1500 years before the beginning of the books, and because of it, unnatural magical creatures became trapped on their planet. Unnatural creatures like vampires. If any of you say any shit to me about vampires, I'm gonna be very upset. I love you all so much, and this is how you treat me. Because of the unnatural creatures that came over with the conjunction of the spears, we now have monster hunters, and these monster hunters are called Witchers, and they are specially trained through some intense means. In a Witcher's own words, I kill monsters for money, beasts which endanger people, horrors conjured up by spells, and sorcerers' casts. Every Witcher carries 2 swords, a silver sword, as silver is fatal to most monsters that exist because of magic, and an iron one made from a falling star for humans. Though while some magical creatures can be killed only by silver, some can be struck down with the iron one. The Witcher training also makes them incredibly difficult to kill, though it can be done, certainly. Because they're mutated through a variety of means to help them kill monsters easier, not everyone views them in the best light. In fact, there's a lot of rumors and misconceptions about Witchers. Some will tell you that a Witcher is trained to only think of and to kill and has no human emotion or reaction to anything, and that they kidnap children and feed them magical herbs to create more Witchers. Now, how much of it is the truth? If you ask certain Witchers, none of it. And if you ask other people, 100%. But again, going back to my varying level of bias and prejudice depending on the person, it does greatly vary. There are some people in that world that love witchers and think that they're amazing and inspiring. And then there's others that are, you're a fucking freak and you should be put down. There's also, no surprise, magic in this series. And magic has the ability to cause a lot of shenanigans because sometimes just the power of your own will can cause a curse. And I don't know about you, but I've thought some mean things really hard about certain people, and if I lived in a world where that was enough to curse someone, oh dear God. Magic in this world is used by harnessing the power of chaos, though it's also called the power, force, and primordial chaos. Many druids, priests, mages, magical creatures, and witchers wield magic, and there are many branches: divination, mind-based, fire-based, water-based, earth-based, and air-based. The four elements, air, water, fire, earth, actually have their own dimension or plane. There are also two banned types of magic: raising the dead and summoning creatures from different dimensions. There are, of course, plants and substances that can block or negate magic or increase it, but it's not worth getting into in an intro video. Knowing one's mages, also known as sorcerers, sorceresses, and wizards, study the ability and how to use magic at special schools. Although it's rare to have the ability to become a mage, and even if you have that ability, you might go fucking crazy. However, if you can become a mage, you age slowly, so that's something. Totally worth the price of losing your fucking mind. In this series, you'll find that mages have a lot of political ambition and are constantly sticking their nose in other people's shit. Now, it should be noted that witches are separate from sorceresses, even though each can be called the other. Witches are generally older, wiser women that are also healers. So if someone's saying witch, they might actually be referring to a sorceress, but by definition in this series, a witch is not a sorceress. There are some crazy things about becoming a sorceress and what it does to you, but I don't want to cover it in this video because I don't want to go too crazy again, even though I feel like I already am. Just know, sorceresses are a bit interesting. Priests and priestesses, though they use magic, do not consider what they do a spell. That to them is blasphemy. Also, the temples vary quite a bit, and some are better to do bad things at than others, but they believe that they get their power from their god or gods, so they're not casting spells like those other heathens. Druids are hippies of the forest that are about understanding nature and not harming anything or anyone. And then witchers don't study the cause of magic, but the knowledge that concentrated will can cause magic is enough for them. And of course, they'll have their own video as well. Because having tension between the different races isn't enough, the different types of magic users also have tension and bias within themselves. Such as mages aren't really generally nice to witchers, and witchers consider mages to be arrogant. There's also a little bit of tension too sometimes between mages and witchers because some of them do not want magical creatures to be hunted down and killed. They want to instead research them and use them for their own plots and things they want done, so they can sometimes get a little miffy at witchers. And in turn, witchers sometimes get a little miffy with the common folk because they are starting to use magical creatures for their own gain, such as a troll being under a bridge where, okay, yeah, it demands a toll, but it upkeeps the bridge, so it's fine. No, you don't have to kill him. Just everything is super okay here. Priests, again, consider people that use spells to be dirty heathens, and, they do it from the power of their belief in God, so they're so much better. Or divine goddess, whatever. Okay, that was your introduction to the Witcher universe. I understand I went a little too crazy. Stay tuned for more character lore videos and just breaking down all the books in general.